You turn me into nothing. When I look at you, it makes me feel something. Don't know what it is that makes me feel this way, but I think about you every single day. Maybe it's the way she moves, or maybe it's that long dark brown hair. Ooh, aha, yeah. Ooh, aha, yeah. Ooh, aha, yeah. Ooh. When you walk on by, my eyes are from the sky, 'cause I couldn't stop thinking about you last night. Everyone was dancing to the Smiths, but you were moving your feet, you were shaking your hips. Maybe it's the way she moves, or maybe it's that long dark brown hair. Ooh, aha, yeah. Ooh, aha, yeah. Ooh, aha, yeah. Ooh. What told you with my wolf pack? You gave me a number, but you never came back. A 1, 2, 3, 4. Woohoo. Aha, yeah. Woohoo. Aha, yeah. Woohoo. Aha, yeah. Woohoo. I don't care, 'cause I still remember your long dark brown hair. Woohoo. Aha, yeah. Woohoo. Aha, yeah. Woohoo. Aha, yeah. Woohoo. Aha, yeah.
Hello, and God knows where Jamie is for the start of the video. Here he is. Welcome everyone to episode 30, although the intro says 29 because it's part 2 of our draft preview. We do have the casuals from last week waiting in the background to join us, but just want to put a bit of a disclaimer out there that obviously this these drafts were done before the Ravens and Chiefs trade for Orlando Brown Jr., which happened in the past couple of days. So Jordan and Mart will have to, I suppose.
I mean, Jordan's doing trades anyway. He don't care, does he?
Yeah, Jordan probably preempted it, didn't he?
He's a modern day maverick. Does what he wants.
But I'm sure they'll be able to, off the top of their head from their knowledge.
I do as I like, and I like what I say. Isn't that a Yorkshire phrase?
So, without further ado, Jamie, do you want to bring him in?
I mean, let's bring in our draft experts. So we've got Mart and Jordan. Hello, guys.
Hey.
Welcome, lads.
You all right?
Cheers for joining us. You're going to have to be thinking on the spot about who Ravens' double pick's going to be.
You're not watching on Dave Jarvie there, George. You seemed a little bit behind there, mate.
You know what the internet's like over here in Yorkshire, don't you?
Oh, you've got it now, have you?
Just barely.
Yeah, I hope no one uses the phone.
And I think with last week as well, I know Tom and Matt decided that they were having a week off, and I'm sure this week they're like, well, I might as well do it again. So we brought in some other guys to analyse these drafts because Matt can't be bothered. We've got JP and Bones joining us.
Hello. Hey, welcome, chat.
Good evening.
Yeah, it was a bit of a treat last week, and it's a treat this week as well. But not because we're lazy bastards, but it's just great to see, what the views are, and again, just up our knowledge a bit, and maybe copy some of the picks for my entry into Andy Turner's draft competition. Which, Matt, I don't know if you want to give a bit more info about.
So Andy's running a draft competition. It's £5 entry and £5 goes towards the money Kieran's raising for the charity which Mark spoke about last week. And basically, it's I'm not entering it because I have absolutely zero or very little knowledge of college football, which is the real reason we brought in some experts to discuss it at length. Not because we can't be arsed, but there is an element of that as well. It's £5 entry. You pick who you think the team will draft through the first round, 1 to 32. I think you get 3 points for the right one and 1 point for the right position, something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
And the winner, there's prizes for first, second, and third, and it's basically money to spend on our merch. Basically, I think it's £50 for first, 30 for second, 20 for third. I think is that right?
I think that's the one. Yeah, money well spent.
So quite a few of us are actually rocking some merch today. I can say I've got some on. Tom has, Bones has, Mark has, and George. In fact, Jamie. What are you playing?
Get him out.
Let the side down here.
Get him out.
No, don't you worry, JP. It's Jamie, the one I'm going to dig out here.
But, I mean, like you said, I mean, there's only one thing I can, and that's gonna. I'm gonna milk it.
Use out of that.
How'd you kick him out?
I'm gonna milk this until the day I die, because it's never gonna happen again. Well, hopefully.
As always, though, check out silverfx.co.uk for the merch. You can look as cool as us. There we go. There's the link at the bottom.
Those good causes as well, worth mentioning.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Which we mentioned the effort that Kieran's put in, and he did it on Sunday, didn't he? With a massive 10 hours of exercise, which is more than some people do in a year. And Kieran did it in a day.
In that weather as well.
Probably in my life.
Yeah. So fair play to keep. Raised £1,000 for the Road to Recovery Trust, which is phenomenal. And you can still donate. And the money that Andy raises from his draft competition will also go towards that, and hopefully it might get Mark, some new shoes or something. That's, although it's got Kieran a new car now, hasn't it? So
yeah. I heard a rumor if Mark don't win the draft competition, he has to donate £100 in. That's why I heard.
Ooh, there's some gauntlets being thrown down here, isn't there? I feel like, am I the referee between you two here, right in the middle as well?
So I think just before we do go onto the draft, as obviously it is finally draft week, we are finally here. I think let's just start off by just starting with our drinks. I mean, we might as well before we start drinking them all, because Matt and Tom aren't going to talk and just drink the whole episode, so might as well start now. I'm on vodka, Pepsi Max Cherry. Who would have thought?
Can we, before we go into other beers, can you just tell us what you were eating before the pod went live, Jamie?
Yeah, I was eating KFC. It was great. I mean, last night for the Oscars, obviously it was the Academy Awards. You know how I feel about the Oscars, and I was like, well, I need something to obviously get my appetite going. It's a long show, so I got a wicked meal deal, whatever it's called. You get 6 pieces of chicken, 4 mini fillets, and 8 hot wings. And then you get like 2 chips and like a gravy as well. But bloody beautiful. I ate most of it last night, finished it off today, and that's lockdown belly for you, isn't it?
Did they pay for those promotional considerations you just gave them?
Other fried chicken is available.
Is it though? Is it?
Chick-fil-A, Dixieland. Sure, why not? Dixieland chicken if you want to die.
Eat responsibly.
Well, I'm on a beer I don't think I've had on the pod before, but Aldi is a great supermarket and they do a lot of knockoff brands. And I've gone with Aldi's Peroni ripoff, which is called Rossini. I mean,
that's just a player on Pro Evo.
That's what I mean. That sounds like Rover on Pro Evo or something like that.
The other one I've got downstairs is a Moretti ripoff. It's called Birra Mapelli. It's basically spelt the same. They've changed one letter. But I'm going to give it a go. It's 5.1%, 500 ml. Yeah,
you gotta love Aldi, man.
I do.
I'll
probably is Peroni.
Get it out of the way because I'm letting the team down this week. I'm rocking the Robinsons. I had a heavy weekend. Beers, food, shouldn't have happened.
A little bit of the bubbly.
I've put on weight 2 weeks out of the last 3. Ooh. So yeah, I'm not. I've got to start laying down and stop drinking and stop eating. So yeah, Robinson's for me.
Okay, Bones, are you still on it? I mean, is that bottle still there?
Yes.
There it is. The same again. Yeah, I'm becoming a creature of habit at this point. I think I'm. There it is. I have a lot of ice. I'm not gonna lie. It's been a warm day. You gotta have some ice in the drink, don't you? Gotta be something cool.
It has been nice and warm.
And what about you, Jordan?
Again, creature of habit. Finishing off the Moretti's. I think I got
Actual Moretti's, not fake Moretti's that I've got.
Emma Pelly.
Not Mario Balotelli.
Might drink a beer.
Such a
Obviously,
good
Mark, you don't drink, do you? So it's like
I'm on the
You're on
tea.
tea, were you on? Tea.
I'm on the naughty list.
naughty.
I'm holding my tongue here.
And to finish us off, JP.
You've definitely been on that list
Of
a few
course,
times.
I am once again on the cider.
Excellent choice.
What flavour you got
brand
today?
cider. I'm not being paid for any personal and commercial considerations, so fuck it, I'm not advertising them. So
And I'm not being paid enough, so that's why I've got Aldi's knockoff Peroni.
Audi might look for sponsorships. You never know. Go ask him next time you buy it.
Well-
would you like me to promote them on my podcast for you?
Well, I think all I need to say is that I don't shop at Marks and Spencer's, so surely Aldi
Yeah.
will back me with what's been going on recently.
Free custom.
Oh, good old Caterpillar.
Might have to go into Aldi and say, do you know who I am? Or just go, yeah, you're that weirdo, get out.
I had one of them Marxie's Caterpillars recently, and they're all really good though. Like I got the little versions of them. You can get like the big
The
one,
little jars.
or you can get little ones, and they're banging. Like they're all really good Caterpillar cakes. Like, and now that I've sampled the Marks and Spencer's version, I can't have any other version of them.
Anything but nothing but Colin.
Spoiled for caterpillar capes now.
Yeah, there was one time when I was already going to Marks and Spencer's to buy food when I shoplifted clothes from there. So Marks and Spencer's, like, you can shoplift a load of clothes and you can take them back because only Marksies sell Marksies clothes, and they would always give you store credit. So then we would go hit the food part of Marksies and spend our store credit in the Marksies food part. That was the only time I was shopped at Marksies.
If you are watching live, get on Twitter, #Justice for Colin.
welcome to third of the short stretch.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's not a referee in the top right corner. That's Mart.
Hands up.
So I'm sure you all guys.
See you next week, guys.
We'll recap on last week. So, like I said, I put you in the top, JP, so you're not going to confuse it because you've got Penny Sewell in front of your face. So I'll cheer with him this time. I mean, that's Kyle Pitts there, but there you go. Are we still confident this is going to be the first 5 going into our final week of the draft? I know there's a lot of talk on Good Morning Britain today, all about Mac Jones. His face has dropped straight away.
Oh boy. Well, the eagle-eyed viewers of the Third and Short podcast network may notice that I'm wearing different glasses this week. I've actually got a stronger prescription now, and I'm still trying to find a fucking reason why we trade up to pick 3 to draft Mac Jones. My personal opinion now is that it's going to be Trey Lance, but I'm not optimistic. Is about the best way I would put it right now.
Well, I wrote a mock draft this weekend. So this mock draft that I did for you guys was a what I would do mock draft. But over the weekend, I wrote a what I think will happen mock draft. Which is obviously different because it's like, oh, well, this is what, I would do something different to what the 32 teams would do. And I had Trey Lance going number 3 in that mock. But yeah, I think the you never know, do you? I mean, at this stage in was it 2018, who had Baker Mayfield as going as the number 1 pick at that stage? Not many.
It was Baker Mayfield.
Yeah. Baker Mayfield, was it 2018? Was it, Matt?
Yeah, it was. Yeah,
so nobody had Baker Mayfield at this stage. I think Sam Darnold was probably still the consensus number 1. Maybe even Josh Rosen. But then, like, there's a lot can be changing. There's a lot that's hidden, isn't there? I probably reading. I think that it is probably between Mac Jones and Trey Lance now. Don't know why teams don't like Justin Fields, but I feel it is down to them too now.
I'm same as Mark. I've done. I'm halfway through my final mock draft this week, and I've changed. I've gone for Trey Lance to the 49ers. Just we're hearing a few things. Listening to Mark last week saying, and I was thinking to myself, you know what? He's probably onto something here, and I don't know if it's a divide at the 49ers where it seems like one part wants Mac Jones, one part wants Trey Lance, and I don't know. And like Mark says, it really could be anyone, and it could end up putting our mock draft in the bin if it's someone that we don't think it's going to be.
Do you think that then triggers someone going for Atlanta's pick if Justin Fields is there at 4?
Without a doubt. Like, it has to, surely.
I mean, I was thinking about this earlier. Like, there's actually no reason to go up to 4 unless you think one of the teams above you is going to take them. So Denver is probably, looking at the order, Denver is probably the most likely to take a QB. So you're only going to, unless you think Carolina are going to do it, which is a possibility, but you're only really going to want to get above Denver. So you don't necessarily need to go to 4. You might be able to hang on. Plus, if we do take Mac Jones, please, God, no. There's Trey Lance and Justin Fields. So the chances are you're going to end up with at least one QB that you really like. So you can probably afford to hang on. I think the Falcons will like it. It'll help them a little. But it's not necessarily a given. There might be a team that desperately wants to make sure they get their guy. And that should at least open them for business. As it stands on the mock we've got in the corner there, I don't think they would get a ton of business, to be honest.
Do you know what it's like? Atlanta are doing everything they need to do in order to drive a sale of that pick. Because every pick afterwards, you start playing, it's like a bit like playing chicken. It's like, who's going to jump up? If Denver think that they're quarterback away, just jump to 4. Just jump to 4 because the move from 9 to 4, and looking at Denver's team, they're not missing a great deal. They're pretty much ready to compete if they have a competent quarterback in to run that offense. They might as well just go to 4 because if you're playing chicken and you're like, oh, well, we could wait till 6. There's New England could be, they could be ringing, and the Falcons are doing everything they can do to sell that pick. They're saying, well, we're thinking about taking a QB, and then there's like, there's teams ringing our phone. So, like, it's one of those, like you said, John, in hindsight, you might go, well, do they need to go that high up? But if you want to get it done, just get it done. Just get it done at the opportunity you can get it done at,
I think one of the only other things, though, is that we've completely screwed up the trade market by going up to 3. Like, with what we gave up, we've now potentially set the price. If somebody's coming from that mid-round sort of level, like New England, it's now like, okay, what are you going to give us? And they will definitely try and drive the market up as much as they can. Atlanta need picks, really. They're not. I don't think they're going to stay at 4, even if it's just a small move.
Yeah, I saw something today with when they were talking about who could they trade up to, and they were talking about Patriots. It would cost them probably a first round for this year, pick 15, round 1 next year, round 2 next year, and their run back as well.
That's a big a big cost.
I think if Justin Fields on the board, Denver will 100% pay it. Like, I'm not sure about the other two. Maybe Trey Lance. Not sure about Mac Jones. But if 49ers do go Trey Lance or even Mac Jones and Justin Fields there, I think Broncos will go up and definitely pay.
There's still the rumor that the Lions will take Fields if he's there at 7. Like, I've seen that a few times pop up this week, where it's like Denver just need, like Mark said, if they want to pull the trigger, just do it. It's 5 places up. Like, it's not going to cost them as much as it'll cost New England, for example. From Jamie's example before, like, Denver's cost for moving up there is going to be significantly lower for them, and it's going to be a much easier move. Get Jerry Jeudy and Noah Fant, someone who can actually throw a ball accurately, and Denver's going to look like a different team.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't think Matt's place there when you said that.
Yeah. So, if everybody remembers from last week, we did picks 1 to 16. So, we finished with the Arizona Cardinals taking cornerbacks Caleb Farley and J.C. Horn Today we are going to be carrying on the draft. It's finally here. Pick 17 to 32. And just to let you know, yes, there are some trades in here. So there you go. So, I mean, let's get into it then. So we'll bring up the first 5 picks from 17, I can't count, to 20. 4 picks, sorry, not 5. 17 to 20, sorry, it's 4 picks.
For anyone watching outside of Blackpool, we do have schools here.
So, the Las Vegas Raiders, you've both gone for linebackers, but Mark, you've gone for Micah Parsons, Jordan, Jeremiah, Owisu, Coramel. I know you just, the worst part is when you did your draft, Mark, you put JOK, and I was like, who's JOK? And I thought, okay, I found him eventually. But yeah, so both going for linebackers, that's something that the Raiders need. How do you feel about that?
Like I said, this is a what I would do, and I really like Micah Parsons. The thing is, I don't think we'll go there. The Raiders have, over the time of Gruden particularly, have almost went with need exclusively. They've exclusively went with need. You know, like, and at the moment, the biggest needs that we have on our roster are at safety and at right tackle. We're slated to start Brandon Parker at right tackle. And Matt will tell you, the prospect of Brandon Parker playing 17 games a season is heartburn-inducing. You know, like, and I think that's our biggest area of need. I think it boils down to maybe looking at the Raiders type. You know what I mean, though? Like, I know I put Micah Parsons here because I really like Micah Parsons. And I actually think Micah Parsons might be there to pick. But I think that will pass on him. I can see Micah Parsons falling. I think there's a few character concerns there. There's some immaturity. And I can see the Raiders just moving off him because of his character. I don't think he was probably really in discussion anyway. I think that will go right tackle. I think Tevin Jenkins is a really good bet for the Raiders. I think Liam Eichenberg is a good bet. Going on what we go with. We go with college playoffs, big program, you know, like players. Liam Eichenberg, Notre Dame, or Alex Leatherwood from Alabama. I think, again, could be a fit because he fits that college playoffs, big program kind of threshold, like, you know. And I don't particularly like the last two, but if we look at the Raiders trends, I feel that could be a fit for them. In this scenario, I went Micah Parsons just because it's what I would do and I love him, you know. I think he's genuinely got a shout at being the best defensive player in the class.
Yeah.
Take away all his character stuff.
Yeah, it's interesting as well because obviously you are a Raiders fan as well, but Jordan, you also went for the same position as well. I mean, we could see obviously the Raiders like crumbling when they were 8-4, whatever, 7-4, were they 6-3? God knows what they were at some point. So why did you go for a linebacker as well?
Well, obviously there's a couple of guys here that know the Raiders better than me, but obviously I would have gone Micah Parsons through there, but he's not there. But I know Bradley's there now, and obviously when Bradley were at the Seahawks time ago, he used to love these type of linebackers. You know what he did with the linebackers in Seattle. I don't know if anyone's seen Caruso hit people. Go watch the highlights of him. Jesus Christ, physical. And I just thought that they might just fall in love with him. But to be honest with you, I'm in agreement with Mark. I think Tevin Jenkins is probably the pick, you know, realistically, you know. But like I said, these guys know Raiders better than me. I've just gone on what I thought Bradley might be whispering in Gruden's ear. Not that Gruden would probably listen, but you never know.
It is worth saying there isn't, as good as Parsons is, there isn't that much of a gap between him and JOK. Like, he is still a really good linebacker either way. Like, you're not shooting yourself in the foot that much by taking one over the other, are you? I think he's easily coming up on Parsons in where he'll get taken in the draft. Like, maybe it's those character concerns, but I don't know. I just more and more this past week, especially, I've heard more and more talk of Jeremiah over Micah.
Yeah, I could easily see them going back to back as well, which is actually what you've got, I think, Jordan, isn't it? I think it's one of those where like a team takes one of them.
It's Mark that's got them going back to back.
Sorry, it's Mark, yeah. And who won again? Yeah, like I think that's one of those where a team takes one of those guys and a team that really like both players is now not stuck with the other one, but is happy to kind of have one of the two. I don't think there's like you say, Bones, I don't think there's a lot between them.
You know, I really like GOK to the Miami Dolphins. I think it's such a good fit. You know, you got to remember that Brian Flores was a linebackers coach at the New England Patriots. If there's ever a team that exploits matchups and chess piece players and knows how to use linebackers to eliminate players on the opposition, it's the New England Patriots under Belichick. And Flores is come from that mindset. And I think he'll look at a 215-pound linebacker. And people say that's light, but Darius Leonard played at about 215, 220 pounds last year. You know, that's the build of a modern-day linebacker. And you'll look at somebody like GOK and you think, what can I do with this kid? You know, what can I do with him? You know, can I line him up in nickel? Can I put him at safety? Can he be the player that Julius Peppers, when he came out, you know, that everybody thought he would be? Because GOK in college was manning the slot in some snaps. In other snaps, he was on edge. You know, he's positionless. And I really like the fit of GOK with Brian Flores in Miami. Really like that fit.
Yeah, obviously, Jordan, you went for, I think is this the first that we've seen in the draft so far? You've got Jalen Phillips for the first edge to go for the Dolphins.
I think for me, obviously you've got the concerns with Jalen Phillips. Like obviously he retired at one point. You know, was it UCLA? Was that? I think it was. He retired at one point, and obviously he came back to Miami. And but I think take that up to the side. I think he's the best edge rusher in this class. I really do. There's some of the tape that you see. He's before the quarterback's even handing the ball off. Is in that backfield. He is a unbelievable athlete. But obviously the concerns are going to be with his medical, you know, with the head injuries and stuff. But for me, he's the best. I'd take a chance on him, and I think that Miami probably would. They're the type of team that a chance it.
Yeah,
it's tough because he does seem to go head to head into every like contest he goes into, doesn't it? Like you can see how he's got some of those head injuries, and I can see why for some teams it might be a concern, like to look at the way he plays football and be like, he's probably going to get more head injuries. Like this probably isn't going to be the end of this problem. But on the flip side, he could hit the actual professional level, and one of the coaches reins him in a bit and gets that using his head too much out of him, maybe. But
it's a bit like what we said about Caleb Fairley as well, isn't it? I think Mark said it at the end of last week. If you think you're going to get like 4 or 5 years out of him at an all-pro level, you'll take that chance at this stage. You know, you're talking the middle of the draft. It's probably worth the risk if you think you can get that, because we've already seen across the league a couple of, even like a year of good edge play can get you into the playoffs. I mean, speaking from personal experience, we drafted Nick Bosa and went from having a defense that couldn't stop anything to one of the best defenses in the league, and we rode it all the way to the Super Bowl. So if you're Miami and you think that that's the guy and he can take you there, I think you'd be happy taking the risk.
Yeah,
I don't like. Obviously, I've got him as my top edge, but I don't think there's an elite edge in this class. You know, there's some good edges, but there's no top 10 elite. So I've got Miami taking him, but I wouldn't like to bet on where the first edge goes in real life. You know, in the actual form draft this Thursday.
Jordan, I think this is the sweet spot. I think this is the sweet spot for edge players. The second half of the first round is probably, you're going to get some good players around there. And I think that's a sweet spot for seeing maybe 4 or 5 edges being taken. I think you could see a little run on them, you know, between like maybe the Colts and Titans both addressing edge. And then maybe Cleveland maybe coming in for one. And now, of course, Baltimore with 2 first-round draft picks and losing Judon, you know, they could be looking at an edge as well. You know, and then you've got Jamie's team, Tampa Bay Buccaneers, at the end. You know, like they might go, well, what did we win the Super Bowl on? We won the Super Bowl on the back of this good, like pressure that we were able to create on Mahomes. Let's continue to build on that, and let's add another. So we might see, like a little run on edges in the second half of the draft, where we might see 4 or 5, maybe even 6. Like edges go at the back end of this draft.
Yeah, it's interesting to look at. With pick 3 and 4, we've got wide receivers Rashad Bateman. Mark, you've got him going to Washington. Jordan, you've got him going to Chicago. So, wide receiver Rashad Bateman, why? What's he got that? I don't think it was he the 3rd wide receiver now, is it? After Jalen Waddle and Devonta Smith, and 4th.
Chase Smith, Waddle.
Yeah, Rashad Bateman, I just like. Like he runs really, really, really good routes. And I know he was meant to be 6'2" in Minnesota, and when they measured him, he was like 6 foot. And Minnesota had put 200 pounds on him as well, and he was like, he didn't quite measure up to what they wanted, but I don't think it moves him off X receiver. Like he's physical. He's physical. He can beat press coverage. He can man up against double teams. He runs really, really good routes. People talk about Devonta Smith running a good route. I would argue that Rashad Bateman runs as pretty as a route as Smith. He's got really good movement. He does drop the occasional ball. I think his drops are sometimes frustrating. But he's a good. I like Rashad Bateman. I really do like Rashad Bateman. The more I think about it again, though, the more I think I don't know if Washington will go wide receiver. Offensive tackle is a good shout for them. I think Washington could be a good landing spot for Micah Parsons if he did slide. Ron Rivera is very much the boss of that locker room, and he's a player's coach, and you all respect him. And I think he'll look at somebody like Micah Parsons and go, I can get the best out of you. I can not only get you to tap into your potential, but I can get you to be a man in this league. And I think that if Micah Parsons was to slide, it would be a good fit in Washington with Ron Rivera, who obviously had Luke Kuechly as well, and was a linebacker himself, I think, at the Bears as well. Somebody might correct us, but I've got the assumption he was a linebacker himself as a Bear. So I think that would be a good landing spot for Micah Parsons. In this one, I've went Rashad Bateman. The more I've thought about it, the more I think it might be offensive tackle or linebacker though on Thursday night.
Obviously, you did these before Alex Smith announced his retirement. Do you not think Washington may be looking at trading up, getting a quarterback, or looking on the board and seeing maybe Mac Jones or a different quarterback at this time, or are they going to stick it with Heineken?
I think they'll kick the tires on moving up. I think it depends. If you see someone like Fields and you see Lance, passed on at number 3, I certainly think Washington will kick the tires and look to move up. I think the Raiders might kick the tires and look to move up. I think there's a few teams that'll look to move up in that area. But I don't think they would move up for Mac Jones. Like when you look at Ron Rivera, what he had at Carolina, he had Cam Newton.
Stupid thing like that.
Sorry,
he would do a stupid thing like trading up for Mac Jones.
I think though, when you look at Ron Rivera and what he had though in Carolina, he had Cam Newton. So I think you'd want to revert to a quarterback who has that run threat.
Yeah.
So whilst I don't think they'd move up for Mac Jones, I do think if Fields or Lance started to slide, they could certainly be looking to move up for one of those two.
I think with Washington, they've got Jack Del Rio, haven't they, of their defensive coordinator, another former linebacker.
Yeah.
I think
Chicago might move up into the quarterback reckoning. There was rumours they were looking at Deshaun Watson before he had his incident.
Russell Wilson as well.
Yeah, and Russell Wilson. Do we think they might? I think there's a possibility. I don't know if they've got enough ammunition, but surely they ain't going into the season with Dalton at QB.
I think the problem becomes there. The person that they take has to be ready. Like in that scenario, if you're saying they're not going into the season with Dalton, whoever they take has to be pro-ready right away, day one. I don't think Lance, from what everyone said, most people would say sit Lance. Like as good as he is, the best option is to sit him for a year, give him time to just get into the league. But if they move up, it has to be Fields, I feel like, or doesn't it? Like, or I mean, in that case, you could maybe make the argument for Mac Jones, as much as everyone's saying, why would you move up for Mac Jones? I think he's one of the ones that everyone says is probably, you could put him in right away and he'd still be able to make those play action passes. He'd still make the most of that kind of offense. He might not get much better. It's the same thing people are saying about Lawrence, isn't it? It's like Lawrence is probably going to be this good forever. He's as good as he's ever going to get. Like, his floor is up here, but his ceiling's only there. Whereas your Lance and Mac Jones types, there's probably a bit more of a gap between that ceiling and floor. And I see, Bears wanting someone who can go day one. But who is it? Who falls?
Certainly be something that we're looking at, I think. Mark, you had them taking a safety there, didn't you, the Bears? You had you had a safety on the board for them.
They lost Kyle Fuller to Denver this year. And I know Kyle Fuller's a cornerback, but that defense, which was built on a few years back when they had that playoff run, is slowly being chipped away. And I think they need to start finding some talent to rebuild that. And I think putting somebody like Morig beside Eddie Jackson is a really nice safety duo that you can do a lot with. Both can make plays on the ball. And I think that both of them would be able to get a turnover or two. And that's what Chicago were doing well when they got the playoffs a few years back. They were playing smart football, but they were turning the ball over regularly. And I think a player like Morig and Eddie Jackson roaming that safety tandem gives them. They both got a nose for the ball, and Morig's can play a variety of roles. So he could play that strong safety role, but he could also play quarters coverage. And I think it would be. I think I've matched them up twice to them there, and I really like the fit there. I think Chicago have to start looking at defense again.
Yeah, I can understand that.
Having to play against them twice a year, it does fit their history of playing that defensive. Like, if there's any team that truly buys into defense wins championships, it's got to be the Bears. Like, the Bears we're going to play defense, and that's where it's going to be. And yeah, this fits them. Morig is easily, like, I personally, my opinion, best safety in the class. Like, I'd love to have him, but I think our safeties are old and rubbish. But
How would you feel about taking him at 15 if you were to drop back with, say, New England Patriots bones?
I think I'd take it. Like, I think our free safety is 29 going on 30 now. Like, Darren Harmon, isn't it, is our current starting free safety, and he is, even if we take him and he plays behind Harmon as a backup to Harmon for a year, like, Harmon's not hanging around much longer with us. We need to address it this year. It's like why in my mock draft every round that I get to 3, I'm like, Jamar Johnson. It's getting tight. Like, I want some defense this year. But I think he's such a good safety. I genuinely will not look forward to playing him twice a year. But hey,
what's your value on safeties, Mark? In your valuation drafts?
Not very high. Not strong safeties, at least. The thing is with Trayvon Morig, though, is he can play a variety of roles, which kind of keeps his ability high. The safeties is a bit like linebacker these days, as in that we box them all into the same role of safety, but really safeties play a variety of different kind of roles within that one position. So if you've got a true single high safety, they're the ones who can be playing cover 3, who can be left up top by themselves, almost play like a sweeper position if you think of football. Have that sideline range, can make players on the ball, almost like cornerback. They're like, and Earl Thomas would be your classic 3, like single high safety. Maybe Malik Hooker was the most recent first round one that came out. They're obviously, for me, they're the highest of the safety rankings. Then you've got your quarters or your half zone safeties, like Micah Hyde and Jordan Poyer. The Bills are examples of this. They're people who can play a variety of roles. They would be second in my rankings of safeties. Then you've got your safeties who can cover nickel. LaMarcus Joyner, Tyrann Mathieu. I would have them as third. And then you've got your box safety. The one who really plays as an extra linebacker, sometimes blitzes, traditionally lines up in the blocks, a.k.a. Jonathan Abram. I don't have a first round. I don't have a first round grade on them kind of players. You can tend to get them pretty easy in rounds 3 and 4, you know.
It's your ball hawk safeties that tend to be like, they're the ones you want to look out for in round 1. Anyone who is that ball hawk player, like, I think Morig is he's got like sparks of it at least. He, like you say, he's got the sideline to sideline coverage. He can, like, I don't know. I like him a lot.
Yeah, he's a good player.
I don't want the Bears to have him though.
I think Jordan as well has got it. Jordan's got him going a little bit later as well. We won't spoil where, but looking at both of them, I think it's like you said, only the one safety by each of you. What's your thoughts, Jordan, on the safety?
It's a bit like Mark, really. I think there's a big fall off from Morig to the rest of them as well. Like, obviously I love a good safety, you know, especially one who can cover all areas and do other things as well, you know, very flexible. But I just think that it's just a big fall off from Morig to the rest of them. I'm not saying that these guys can't be good, but if you're just evaluating on what you've got on tape, you know, it's, like I say, there's a big gap.
Yeah. Okay, so that's the first 4 on there. So we'll bring up the final 4 of our first 8. So we'll start with the Indianapolis Colts. You've both gone for an edge, different edges. So we've got Quitty Pay and Aziz Ujulari. I don't know why I can't pronounce these words.
Aziz Ujulari.
Quitty's my favourite kind of pie.
So yeah, both going for an edge.
Me personally, I don't. I think,
I was going to let Jordan explain.
No, I was just about to say, Hay and Ojulari. I'd have them both. I like them both. I think you can flip them either way as a second and third edge off the board for me. You know, like thingy wise, play wise. So I don't know how Mark has them or you guys have them, but I wouldn't be bothered either way if I was a Colts fan who would have out of them too, to be honest.
I have a saying, and that's if you're going to draft defenders, draft athletes. I think if you've got lots of athletes on defense, there are players who can make play in space who are freaks of nature, you're going to build a very good defense. And Chris Ballard at the Indianapolis Colts kind of takes this approach as well. He drafts athletes. And that's why I thought Quitty Pay. I actually think Quitty Pay will be gone by this stage. You know, whilst I love Jalen Phillips, and I totally understand why Jordan had him as edge number 1, because I actually have him as edge number 1. I think NFL teams are going to be more intrigued by someone like Quitty Pay. He's, you know, like he's a good size. He's very athletic. He ran a very good 3-cone, and he's a specimen who was really. Although he improved year upon year in Michigan, he never really reached that potential of what he could be. And I think that defensive line coaches will look at somebody like Quitty Pay and go, give me that. I cannot feel with those athletic traits if I can show them a few things what to do. I think Jason Oye could also be a good fit for the exact same reasons at this point for the Indianapolis Colts. Aziz Ujulari, I like as well. I like this little group of edges, you know, where you've got these, I would say 5 of them who fall into this little bracket here, you know what I mean? Of, you know, Phillips, Quitty Pay, Aziz Ujulari, Oye, you know, you've got this little pocket of them, and they seem to go, and maybe even Joe Tryon's squeezing his way into this now as well. And different people see, it depends what you want. You know, like I really like Aziz Ujulari as a stand-up edge player, maybe in a 3-4, you know, where he's not so much hand in the dirt. And in Indianapolis, kind of think that they'll value the athlete. And whilst I love Aziz Ujulari, and look, everything Jordan says is true. He's a very good player. You only had to watch him in the Peach Bowl to see the performance that he had in that game. You know, where I think he left with 3 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, and a safety, and the MVP award for the Peach Bowl. That was the last game he played. You know, like that's going to hold stock, albeit because James Hudson, the Cincinnati tackle, got ejected, and he was actually lining up against the 3rd string tackle, but he made the most of it, you know. And those stat lines impress NFL coaches. And I totally get why Jordan had Azeez Ujulari in that spot.
I think
that Chris Ballard will rate athletes,
I think the Colts could really do with edge. I think they're very reliant on DeForest Buckner at the moment, getting towards the tackle, to back it, to make sacks, and it could really do with some help up there in Indianapolis. But obviously with I can never pronounce his name. What's the left tackle that's retired now from Colts?
Costanza.
Yeah,
Costanza.
Yeah. So that's an area that they might look at as well. But I think edge is something they really need to look at, to help DeForest Buckner out. But
it's deep at tackle as well, isn't it? The draft has got, there's quite a few good tackles. They could easily get one back in the second round. I agree, though, with both what you guys have said about Ballard. He's a lines out guy, so it's going to be a trenches guy. It's going to be an edge, or it's going to be an offensive lineman. I don't think they're going to look anywhere else. They're not going to do. It might be a little bit flashy to draft an edge, but it's not going to be, it's not going to be a wow pick, but it's going to be a solid pick. And like you, I don't see much splitting the next three guys you've kind of got at edge, really. I think it's just what do you like and where do they fit in your scheme. So I can't really find fault with either of those picks that you guys have got.
I definitely think that's part of it is at this point, arguably the top, 2 or 3 offensive tackles, or maybe 4 offensive tackles are gone, whereas you've got all 3 or 4, 5 of the best edges still there on the board. Like, don't take the 5th best tackle when you can take the best edge.
What a great point. What a fantastic point that is. And I think when we talk about groupings and we look at groupings and things like that, and we looked at what Carolina did last year, when they looked at their board and they went, the best defensive tackle's still on the board. Why take X, Y, and Z? I'll go get the best defensive tackle and swing round and get Jeremy Chin. That's a really good point, Bones, and one I hadn't thought of myself. But yeah.
Got a new expert here. Move over, Mark Hart. Come on in, Bones Jones.
It's interesting though, because I know last season, when we said on the podcast, Indianapolis Colts were my dark horse for the whole Super Bowl on their road there. Obviously, they did make the playoffs. They have got a really good team, and maybe that's just that edge that they need. Obviously, you both have picked up on that they need that edge to hopefully maybe go on to that next level and make it to the conference game.
I already think they'll be one of the teams to beat next year.
I was about to say, I think the Colts are still that team that could be the team that comes and wins it all. They were asking after quarterbacks this year as well, weren't they? They were one of the teams going out and asking people about their quarterbacks, asking after Stafford, asking after these people. I think they're definitely ready to try and make a push again.
If Stafford had gone to the Colts, I think they'd be Super Bowl bound.
It would have been very hard to pick against them. Yeah, it would have been really. They're a good side, and to be honest, you get an edge, and if they can have an impact as a rookie, that can make a big difference. Pass rush, honestly, wins you a lot of games. Combined with good coverage, of course, but if you've got a decent, consistent edge out there, it's going to make a big difference.
I think it would have helped Colts if they're in the NFC. I don't think it's helped them at the moment that the NFC is very stacked at the moment with a lot of teams that are on the brink of maybe putting a run together, 2 or 3 players, teams like the Browns, the Ravens, Titans, 2 or 3 players, that AFC is really strong at the moment.
You didn't mention the Raiders there, Jordan.
Yeah. Let's move on.
Let's move on because we're finally here because we have the New York Giants finally making their pick after that trade from the Tennessee Titans.
I was getting a bit of pie there.
So obviously you said that the New York Giants, Jordan, would trade with Tennessee Titans would move up to the New York Giants, who were pick number 11. They took Jalen Waddle from New York Giants 11. Now they're taking Quitty Pie, a little bit of the pie. So yeah, they need another edge, and the Tennessee Titans going for Jason Oweh. Is that like a Newcastle guy? Oweh.
A weird man. Jason Oweh, man.
Actually, in my final mock, I've actually got the Giants trading out exactly the same trade, different player, but same trade out. Titans going down. I fancy
Not known for his trading as a gentleman.
Well, this is the thing, right? So Bateman's never traded in his 8 years as a GM, but they're making that much of a bigger deal about it. I wouldn't be surprised because he's got no backbone that this is the year he finally goes, right, I better give someone a trade back. He was asked about it. He spoke with the media towards the tail end of the last week. And he said that it's not that he hasn't tried, it's just that he wouldn't be held to ransom. So I don't know. I mean, you look at it and we've only got 6 picks, so maybe you go if Slater's not there and there's no wide receiver on the board, because there seems to be this rumours coming out, and it's very, very strong. It's all the time that we'll still go for a wide receiver if there's one of the big 3 there.
Do you know what, Tom? I think if you trade, I think it'll be for a team that wants a wide receiver.
Yeah.
I think if, say, Jalen Waddle is at 11, I think Arizona Cardinals in New England could see a trade. New York Giants could see a good trade there. I think Arizona, they've got Hopkins, they've got Green, they've got Kirk. What they haven't got is they haven't got that game-breaking ability of someone like Jalen Waddle. Andy Isabella is not Jalen Waddle. You know, and I think that they would like to get up ahead of Philadelphia for a player like Waddle if he starts to slip.
I've literally just done my entry with Andy Turner, and I put that exact trade in with the Cards to the Giants for Waddle, and then spewed because I don't want the Giants to take an edge, so I took it out. But yeah, my only thing about edge is I think pre-Joe Judge and Patrick Graham, it's always been a huge need for the Giants, and I'm not saying it isn't still a big need, but I think it's that big of a need that they probably won't take one of this class as you know, someone that will fill that gap. You know, they've got O'Shane Zimenez and they've got Lorenzo Carter who they rate quite high. They just had bad injuries last year, both of them. So I'm looking at it and going, are these better than them? I don't know. Is George and Graham going to look at it and go, why would we go, you know, edge over them if there's someone else there? Like I say, it all depends who's there at 11, I think. Because I do think the Giants' best strategy should be BPA at 11. But it just depends. Like, the more and more I'm swinging to, obviously I want Parsons, but the more and more I'm swinging to it, if Slater's there, I think they take him. I just don't think he's going to be there. And then it is, what do you do? Say again.
Do the Giants have a second-round pick?
You've got a second round, yeah.
There'll still be some good edges there at second round if they want to look at something else, you know, stay there. And, you know,
I just look at the way Graham schemes as well, and he uses his linebackers as edge quite a bit. You know, we've got like Carter Coughlin and Cam Brown he used there quite a lot when Jimenez and Carter were out. And I just don't know if we'll go there. I think if we do, I think it'll be Jalen Phillips. The footage from the pro days, like Judge didn't leave him alone, whereas the other edges that he met with, it seemed quite quick. So it'll all depend on obviously what comes out about his physicals and stuff, because obviously the concussion problems. But they seem to be enamoured with him out of the edges, if anything. Just don't know. And I'm starting like up to probably about a week ago. I've been very much like, oh, it's going to be a fucking great draft. You know, we can't lose. And now I'm sat here and I'm like, fuck's sake, we're going to trade back. I'm going to have to stay up later. We're going to take an edge that I don't want to take, or we're going to panic about the gap at nose tackle and go for fucking probably the weakest position in this draft.
I don't even think there might be like 1 or 2 first round defensive tackles.
Far more maybe. If
there
that,
we'll
trade back and take him.
Fill that gap. Gettleman, though, a bit like Ballard, only worse, is like definitely more of a trenches guy, maybe a pass rush guy. Phillips would make a lot of sense. I could see that happening potentially. Don't forget, obviously, I was going to say recent success, but it's been a while. But like back in the day when you had the defensive linemen like Justin Tuck and, you know, Strahan and people like that, it was those kind of athletes. So Phillips to me makes a lot of sense if he's there. I think he will be there because we've already talked about his concussion, his concussion histories. He should certainly be there where you're actually supposed to pick. If you do trade down, I think he might still be there. So I'm quite intrigued to see what the Giants do. The Giants aren't a team I know a whole lot about other than you hate Gettleman. That's they're not a team I see a lot of. Yeah, I feel like they're worth watching on draft night just to see what they actually do. I feel like they could feasibly go in a number of directions with the pick, really.
Yeah.
Where it's at.
They'll definitely field calls when it's all down to Gettleman's ego, because I think that's what it is with him. And it's not that he's got a massive ego, it's just how do I protect my reputation? Because the guy's a fucking clueless idiot. And he just gets hung out to dry all the time. So he'll be, that will be, I do think he's that weak of a person that will be in his mind of what are people going to think about this pick? Like, what should I do? What's the call I get? You're right. Someone's going to want to come up for wide receiver because one of them, if not two of them, are going to be there at that point. So who's it going to be? It's probably going to be Waddle and Smith if two are there. If it's only one, it's probably going to be Smith.
I think that raises a good point, though. What you said about Gettleman being worried about the potential reaction to his pick, that is the worst position you can be in as a general manager, isn't it? We talked early on in the show about potentially taking Mac Jones, and I'm not going to go over that ground again. But if that is your pick, stand by it. You know, okay, it's your career that's on the line. At the end of the day, you should be comfortable making the pick you want to make. You might get it wrong, but I think I would sooner go. I think I would sooner fail being wrong with what I thought was the right thing to do than to sort of take the consensus and not necessarily get the players I wanted in the building. So I hope he doesn't take that way. But like you, I suspect he probably does. He's probably feeling a little bit of heat. I think there's pressure on them now. That's kind of like it's Jones's time to shine next year. Potentially, you really need to. You need to have a good season next year. Really, I'm not saying you will. I'm just saying.
But it screams out to me. You're bang on right. He's in the hot seat. I mean, I also on the flip side think, does he really give a fuck at his age? Because he knows he's not going to get another job after this. And if it is, it's probably going to be, it's not going to be a GM job. So it's just going to be a nice little paid job with his mate Mara. So, he's getting on. He'll be quite happy to retire on his, on his money. So maybe he doesn't. But you nailed it for me. This is Jones's year to have him be make or break. Yeah. Now you've given him all the offensive weapons he needs in regards to targets. He's got one of the league's best running backs beside him. The Giants had a top 8 defense last year. Patrick Graham scheme's just ridiculous. We've probably got one of the strongest secondaries out there. Yeah. And the only gap there that you're talking about is we have a terrible offensive line. And that's where I think we need to address it. But hopefully I've not seen much of Darasaur. I've watched it Slater because he was the one that's banded about. But if one of them is there, they have to go for it. They have to. But then the flip side is they really want Matt Pert at right tackle and Andrew Thomas is left tackle. If you're taking Slater, why would you transition him to guard when people are saying he's going to be a brilliant tackle? I don't know. I'm starting to shit myself about it. I really am. And I just wanted to enjoy it, man.
I was looking at Darashaw as well recently. Like, just quickly while we're on the topic, because people have been talking about us taking offensive line. I'm scared if he goes to line, he's going to get called for holding all the time. All the time.
It's bad.
He's a bit grabby, and being a bit grabby when you play for like the Lions, for example, means you're getting called every single play.
It's just Bones with his conspiracy theories again.
I'm just saying, there's certain teams that can't get away with a lot in the league. It definitely happens.
Yeah.
I believe there's 2 people in this call right now that would agree. There are certain teams that get away with a lot less than other teams.
I'd make it 3, mate, because my response to you initially was going to be just play against Nick Bosa. You'll never get called for holding.
Please cry me a river. Oh, Raiders fans, yeah. You've never been born. Never been born, John. Never been born until you've seen Khalil Mack held on, like half a dozen pressures a game and flash coming from nowhere. And then you've got like the tuck rule and don't come to me with your bad play calls.
They made up a whole rule for our wide receiver.
You know what I mean?
There's a rule named after our wide receiver. Like,
there was a rule just to give Brady a ring.
No, it's true. The tuck rule is a bad one, but the Megatron rule is just as bad. Like, there shouldn't be a rule named after a player.
I disagree. I think they should name all the rules after players. That sounds way more entertaining. The Megatron rule sounds awesome.
As a Seahawks fan, I'm not getting into disciplinary action.
Jordan's just here so he doesn't get fined.
Best press conference.
So obviously, New York Jets with the second pick in the draft take Zach Wilson. Then they come back on the board with their second first-round pick. We have an edge and a cornerback. So we have got that guy again, and Greg Newsome the second. So
this is the
again,
Jets managed to get booed. They can't get booed for picking Zach. This is where the Jets managed to get themselves booed. Like, they can't get booed for picking. You can't mess up number 2 this year. They can mess up this one, and Jets fans love to boo their picks, don't they?
Probably take a tight end if history's edited together.
They've got so much capital, though, the Jets. They've got so many picks in the top half of this, in the first 3 rounds of this draft. It's hard to know what direction they're going to go in with that second pick of the first round, because they've got so many options on the table of what they're going to look at, and I guess it goes down to their need. Ultimately, I actually think it might be someone like Najee Harris. I think they'll go, to use Bones' adage from before. We're picking at the back half of round 1. We've got a bloody abundance of picks. Why have the 4th or 5th edge where we're going to have the best running back? And I think, although I don't really buy into the draft running backs in round 1, when you've got this much capital, if you're really in love with someone, just go take them. Just go take them, because you're still going to fill out those areas of need with everything else. I think it was Bill Walsh who used to say, it's the name of the player, it doesn't matter where you take them. And I think a player like Najee Harris will ultimately be what they want.
He's got so many college records. He's outperformed Derrick Henry, hasn't he, at college level? Yeah. So, I mean, it's unreal. I think there was a lot of drafts that had the Bucs taking him in with the last pick in, obviously, this one. I doubt we would, considering if we start Leonard Fournette and then obviously Rojo as well. I mean, 3 running backs is a bit much, I'd say.
But Giovanni Bernard as well.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll stand up for Jordan's pick here. I think this is a real, an underrated pick, especially with Salah taking over as the head coach. I really like that pick. He's a great fit in that defensive system. And maybe that's the way to go. They haven't had much luck drafting corners since Revis, but I like Greg Newsome. I like that pick. I just wanted to point that out because I really did like that once I looked into it a little bit more. He seems a really good fit.
There's definitely a few concerns with Newsome, but I think his ceiling's quite high if he gets it all, puts it all together in the next stage. Going into NFL. There's a lot there to like, but he has got a lot to learn as well at the same time.
Really good feet. Really like his feet. His back pedal, it's really smooth. He's really good in zone. That cover 3 that Salah will take across to New York with him. He's a really good fit for that system. Played a lot of zone in Northwestern. The only thing I would say about Greg Newsome, because I like him as well, is Big Ten isn't known for really good wide receivers. Apart from Ohio, who else is in that division wide receiver wise? You've got Wisconsin, you've got a lot of run heavy. Michigan got anybody of note? Nico Collins, Jordan, I'm sure would argue. You know what I mean? But you look at that Big Ten, and it's not known for being wide receiver heavy. And we saw the feelings of Okuda and Damon Arnett, Big Ten corners who came into the league as first round picks, and in all intents and purposes struggled. You know what I mean? I think there's a warn. I think there is a little bit of a. Do we not take a corner from the SEC and maybe someone like Eric Stokes or Tyson Campbell because they're tested a lot more? And although their tape might be as pretty, we know that the talent that they're matched up against is NFL ready wide receiver talent. But I do like Greg Newsome. before that said, I do like him.
That's you hit the nail on the head there. That's the concern in it. And I don't even think he had a really good 2020 Newsom. That's why he's shot up, the boards. He had a really, really good year. But I think he missed the Big Ten championship against Ohio State this year as well, didn't he? I think so. I didn't even play in that.
Injured 17 snaps in.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Got injured 17 snaps in. So everyone's waiting for him to go up against, the Ohio State wide receivers. And after about 17 snaps, he was injured. You know what I mean? If I remember rightly. And it was a bit of a damn squib because he never really got tested. But I like him. There's enough there to get behind him. There's enough there. His size, his length, his footwork, his pedal's really smooth. His pedal is really smooth. He's not clunky on his feet. He's which means that he's not grabby. He's not grabby. When you see, cornerbacks who are having to grab, and getting called for penalties and holding penalties or pass interferences. It's normally because somewhere in their back pedal or their transition when they've been flipping their hips, they've lost some ground underneath their own foot. You know what I mean? Whereas if you watch who we're talking about, Greg Newsom, he's really smooth in his back pedal. His hips are really good. He's really fluid, and that's what you look for in corners. Really, I think you look for somebody, especially in zone coverage, who's got that fluidity in their movement,
Yeah. So finally, then the Pittsburgh Steelers, completely different here. Like I said, this is our first center as well, with Landon Dickerson going. I mean, centers again. I'm not sure it's one of these things. If I'm completely wrong, did he really go much in the first round?
This is just Mark's view of Steelers, isn't it, though? You mentioned this a while back, didn't you, Mark?
The text Big Ben.
The Steelers have been known to draft centers in the first round. Pouncey, who's just retired, was a first-round pick himself. You know what I mean? And I value the entire offensive line, if truth be told. And I think center is as much as a value as guard. I might overvalue centers a touch because I'm probably like of that British mentality, of get your spine right, have a good centre half, have a good midfielder, have a good forward kind of thing. And I see that centre as being that spine, have a good centre, have a good quarterback, have a good halfback. You know what I mean? But yeah, I like Landon Dickerson. I think Najee Harris would be the pick if he's there, though. I think Jordan's probably nailed it. If Najee Harris is there, I think they would probably take Najee Harris.
Takes a bit of pressure on
I think it's going to be one of those two positions. To play in the AFC North, the weather's terrible there. You've got to be able to run the ball, and that's where the Steelers struggled this year. When teams basically said, "You can't run on us. We'll force Ben through it 40 times a game," started losing games. Yeah. And I think they'll want to get back that identity. So I think the pick will either be offensive line or Najee Harris. I think they would like Najee Harris because he's such a good receiver. He's 230 pounds. He's big. I think they'd probably think he can do a little bit of the stuff that Bell did, in terms of catching balls out the backfield. In my scenario, he was gone, obviously, the Jets. But I think Jordan's probably nailed it, out of the two of us. I think on this one, I think if he's there, he would definitely be the pick.
I think the fact that the Steelers have let James Conner go and they haven't replaced him. I think the only running back I can think the Steelers have got is it Snell? Is that who's there? Is it Brandon
Snell? Yeah.
Yeah, I can't think of. Obviously, they'll probably have another one, but I can't think. But the fact that they haven't replaced or done anything, I don't know if if Najee Harris is there, they'd be likely they might go for him. But I don't know if they've got a plan to. They'll definitely have a plan to pick up running back. Obviously, if Harris isn't there, I don't know how much. Me personally, I think Harris is the standout running back. I do like ETN and Williams, but I think there's a bit of a drop off from Harris to them. To be honest with you.
It's like James
Harris
said
is that
before,
three-down back.
He's three-down back, and he's left Alabama with all-time rushing leader, 3,800 yards, all-time total scrimmage yard leader, 4,600 yards, and all-time touchdown leader with 57 touchdowns. Like
average.
The Steelers
that's numbers. That
Steelers would be kicking themselves not to take him if he's there. Like you say, with them having no running backs left as well, this guy has set every Alabama record he needed to get him in that team. And yeah. I agree.
I like both picks. I think the classic Steeler picks, both. Yeah, I can see why Mart's gone the way he's gone. Harris makes a ton of sense at running back as well. Just on the centre thing, I can't understand why they're so undervalued by most people. You're talking about the centrepiece of the O-line, calling out a lot of the protections. You only have to look at some of the teams that don't have good centres, and I would have included us in that until we got Alex Mack in the offseason. It makes a big difference to where your offense can go.
Tom knows I love our centre. Like, I absolutely love our centre.
That's the thing. You need a good one. I think most of the good teams have had one. You think people like, Jeff Saturday, people like that. You need a top centre, I think. And yeah, it would be very Steelers to do that. Both Bama guys, so they're not exactly, adverse to play against physical competition, top competition. Yeah, love both picks.
Yeah. It's like you said,
I think whilst we're talking running backs, sorry.
No, go for it, Matt. Go for it.
I think whilst we're talking running backs, though, I want to talk about Javon Williams because I loved watching his tape. If you go watch, if you want to watch somebody who's fun to watch, go watch Javon Williams. Go find his tape now. Go find any of it and go watch it. Matt will remember we had Marshawn Lynch. Jordan will remember Marshawn Lynch, of course. And I get serious Marshawn Lynch vibes from Javon Williams. He's dragging players down the field. He's looking like he's in a pack of players and he's bursting out the other side and scampering for 20 yards. And you can imagine that underneath that helmet, he's playing with the biggest smile in the world. He's almost looking for contact. There's players where you'll slow down so the safety can come across just so you can clap at him, you know what I mean? He's so hard to bring down. He hasn't got the receiving potential of Travis Etienne or Najee Harris. But, if the Steelers want to go uber physical and they want to go get somebody who will just pound the ball and pound it with a smile and will want to touch the ball 30 times, Williams would be a fun fit there if Najee Harris did go pick before.
He sounds like an actual Raiders player from what you've just described.
Oh, he's so fun to watch, Matt. If you can find tape at North Carolina, find it. Watch it. He's so fun to watch.
I have not seen much tape of him, but I'm watching it now because Mark said to do so. Yeah, definitely.
I trust him.
This guy is just like Mark said, there's certain situations where it looks like he's like, I'm just going to truck this dude. I don't give a shit. I'm going straight into him as hard as I can. Cool. Mark, I love that.
Is Javonte Williams, is that the clip where there's a linebacker that comes out of the backfield and he actually bear hugs him and just smashed him to the ground? Is that Javonte Williams?
Yeah. There's a bit where he does a trifecta where he runs and he hurdles one guy, lands off the hurdle, stiff arms another guy, and then trucks the third guy. How many running backs can hurdle, stiff arm, and then truck someone in one run? You know what I mean? But he manages to do it. That's like a hat trick,
So we're going to move on to the final 8 picks. We have one more trade to come as well, Jordan. Final trade.
If you hadn't said Jordan, then I wouldn't have known who did the trade.
Here's Jamie.
So before we do move on to that trade, we have got the Jacksonville Jaguars back on the board. And to add some power to Trevor Lawrence, you've gone for Rondale Moore, Mark.
Yeah. I love Rondale Moore. I don't actually think he'll probably make his way into the first round in life, in true life on Thursday. I just love him. I just think he's so exciting. He was one of the most electric players I watched in 2019. I think of Urban Meyer, and I think of his time in Florida with Percy Harvin, and then I think about his time in Ohio with Braxton Miller and, of course, Curtis Samuel. And I know how he uses these smaller gadget type, wide receivers. And it just makes us want to go Rondale Moore or Elijah Moore, stick them there, and Urban Meyer know how to get the best out of them,
Yeah, definitely. And Jordan, you went a little bit differently on this one. I think you've gone for an offensive tackle in Samuel Cosme. I can't even see it. My eyesight's already going. That's what happens when you stay up till 4 o'clock watching the Oscars Cosme? Yeah, that's the one. From Texas. So offensive tackle for the Jaguars, is that mainly to protect? I guess you don't want another Burrow situation, do you? So
protect him at all costs. No, I do like the Rondale Moore pick. I think he's a really good wide receiver, and he'd probably a really nice fit at Jacksonville, to be honest with you. But I've just gone for old-fashioned. Just protect the franchise quarterback. Protect him at left tackle. Samuel Cosme is a nice fit as well. I'm a big fan of Samuel Cosme.
So Cleveland Browns.
I've had Cosme coming up as well, to be honest with you. Like over the last, again, from looking at offensive tackles, because there's been the talk that the Lions might go for someone on the right hand side. That I Cosme's coming up. I really like him. Like I'd take him over some of the other ones, like especially with what I was saying before about certain grabby tackles that might get called in a Lions offense a lot.
He can play both right tackle and left tackle as well. He can play both very well, so he's got that flexibility as well. You know, if he's not ready for left tackle straight away, because there's a few key areas that he needs to work on. He can go right tackle. I can't remember who the right. I'm going to be honest with you. I can't remember exactly who the right tackle is for Jacksonville, but he's flexible. He'll work.
Cam Robinson's there at some point on the line. I think the lad who used to play for Bama. I think he's still there. I think he might be left.
Jacksonville got rid of so much over the last 2 years. It's hard to keep track of what's left anymore.
I like Cosme.
We move on to the next one. You've got Cleveland Browns on the clock, and the Buccaneers are on the phone. The reigning Super Bowl champions wanting to trade up for a defensive tackle in Christian Barmore.
Yeah, my thinking behind this, I don't know if it'll go. I'm thinking he's the best interior defensive lineman by. Well, it was a mile a while ago, but I do like Levi from. I'm not even going to pronounce his second name from Washington.
Wuzuriki.
Very nice, very nice. Love it. But I think Ndamukong Suh was getting on a bit now. He might have 2 years in him, but he's going again this year. He might have 2 years left for him. But he's getting on, and I can't remember what your other interior lineman.
Suh will be due another team soon, won't he?
Yeah, he's getting on a bit as well. So it'd be a good fit for Tampa Bay.
Vita Vea as well, but I think it's quite.
Oh yeah,
he's been a few. So how can you forget about Vita?
Imagine Vita Vea and Barmore on that interior line.
Good fit.
I know. When I was playing Madden, I got Arlen Hicks in there as well. So I had Suh, Vea, and Hicks. I mean, that's untouchable.
I did on my mock that I did over the weekend. I originally had Gregory Rousseau going to Tampa at pick 32, and then I contacted my friend who was doing the ad and said I want to change that pick. So I realised I hadn't put Christian Barmore in the first round, and I took out Gregory Rousseau and I put Barmore in, and I really like the fit because, like Jordan said, he can play inside, but he can also play in that Bama. He played, as a 5-tech. So he can play a 5-tech and 3-tech, which totally suits Tampa. Because in Todd Bowles, you've got a guy who plays a hybrid front, which means sometimes they'll line up in a 3-4, and other times they'll come down in a 4-3. And, and Barmore's perfect for that, because he can play a 5-tech in a 3-4. And then, when they go 4-3, they can kick him inside and he can play a 3-tech on those passing downs,
Yeah, definitely. So, obviously, without trades, Cleveland Browns stuck at number 26, and they took an edge in Jalen Phillips.
Yeah, well, they've got Jadeveon Clowney, haven't they? Signed Jadeveon Clowney, and I think that's a good signing for them. But what we know about Clowney is he doesn't play 16 games, but it's a 17-game season, so he's probably not going to play a 17 either. And I think that they're probably going to need to find a rotational piece in there with Myles Garrett or somebody who can come in. I think pass rush is a good bet for them. I like Zavon Collins there for Cleveland as well. big 260 pounds. Actually, I read somewhere he weighed in at 270 pounds. You know, like off-ball linebacker, but he's really fast and athletic, sideline range. I hope he can still carry out at 270 because that's a phenomenal. That's like a 1970s style linebacker you've got, but with really good athletic movement. I think that someone like Javon Collins could be a good fit in Cleveland. You know, like for Jen, you know, who's a Cleveland fan, friend, Jen of the Baggers. You know what I mean? Though, I think someone like Javon Collins would be really interesting in Cleveland because they're playing such a run-heavy division. You know, having somebody like that, you know, like it would be
He
quite
can
good,
get
you
into
know?
that backfield very well as well, Collins. That's the thing. Like you're saying, he's athletic and massive. Like he can get through that line very quickly. Unbelievably fast for his size. You like, how did he get there? Yeah.
Big guy, you could play that. You could play him. You could play him as a linebacker, and then on some passing downs, you could kick him on edge, couldn't you? And I just think I want to get him somewhere. You know, I want to mention him somewhere because he's not in my draft. And I'm like, I need to mention. There's players who you have to mention, and Javon Collins is one of them. You know, that intrigues us come draft night, and I think Cleveland could be a really good little fit for him. Like, you know.
It's a bit like you said as well. The size is useful in that division. You know, generally anybody in the Rust Belt teams, you're looking for those big physical players that can, you know, withstand a bit of a battering, but also give one out. And I think Collins falls into that. I'd argue Phillips does as well. He's such a good athlete that I think if he fell to the Browns here, I think they'd be delighted to have him, without a shadow of a doubt.
Okay. So after this, I mean, Baltimore Ravens, obviously. We've got wide receiver Terrace Marshall Jr. Compared to a safety in Trayvon Moehrig. I know who obviously went a little bit earlier. Marks. So again, you've gone one offensive, one defensive. What do you think the needs are for the Ravens?
Both of them two.
Let Jordan go first.
I was going to say both of them two. I don't like. Obviously, I must admit, I do like my pick. I think it's they're in need of a safety, and I think if Trevor Moehrig's there, especially now they've got, obviously before we did this, they only had one pick. Especially now they've got two picks. If Trevor Moehrig there, I think they might pick him up first, and they still might be able to pick up a wide receiver there. But I think they're the two needs for me for the Ravens.
Yeah,
I can see that. I think Lamar needs some more. I think this is another one of those teams where they could do with another weapon. I don't know that Hollywood seems like to be one of their main receiving threats, and I don't think he's become what they were hoping he would be necessarily. Devin Duvernay definitely didn't become what they hoped he would be. I think they're still looking for someone in that wide out spot just to give Jackson an extra helping hand.
Yeah, there's no
Not
one
just throwing it over to Andrews all the time.
That too, like there's definitely something to be said for it. Like, but I also agree that you could, with them having the two picks now, especially, you could wait till that later pick and get Elijah Moore and get someone like that a few picks later on, rather than rushing it. Especially if Moehrig's still on the board.
Yeah, that's a classic Ravens pick. If he is still on the board, that's exactly the type of pick the Ravens would make. And then 2-3 years down the line, there'll be a bunch of people wondering why he didn't go earlier. That's classic what the Ravens do on defense in the draft.
Yeah, I just want to stipulate, because hopefully Andy Turner's watching, I submitted my draft before this. Because I've gone, Mark's gone Terrence Marshall Jr. and Greg Newsome. I've done the same, and for Browns, I've got a similar position. I went away for Browns.
Inside information, he gave us a 10 on you.
Yeah. To be fair, I did have this draft.
Going halves on another, aren't they? Going to share it each month.
Yeah, I'll be the winner.
So you got, after the Ravens, we've got another wide receiver going. Again, you've gone defense, offensive for the Saints. Elijah Moore, a wide receiver, and cornerback Greg Newsome, the second. I mean, you've got those weapons to James, don't we? I mean, James Winston needs these weapons next season. Got to throw those balls. You got to get those dubs.
Can't wait for Elijah Moore to be delighted at not catching anything.
Just seeing balls fly over his head.
Oh, it's gone back.
I did hear an interesting stat recently that I thought Jamie might like, especially. I think I'm right, but before I get out of hand, I could be wrong. Peyton Manning threw 27 interceptions his first year or something like that. So when people look at Winston and say, "Oh, he threw 30 picks his first year," it's like, yeah, so did Peyton Manning, and then look at what he went on to do with his career.
Yeah, it wasn't his first.
That was his fifth year.
Oh, it was his 5th year. Sorry,
Well, he's probably better in his first year.
Sorry,
He was rookie of the year in his first year.
Oh.
He was rookie of the year,
and that shows how much of a bullshit award that is, because he was given it to a quarterback.
He's the Benjamin Button of the NFL. He's progressing backwards.
He's going the wrong way. Yeah, sorry.
He'll be eating M's soon.
Did you see that video?
When Winston came in, he had. So when Winston came in, he had obviously Mike Evans from the year before in the first round, and then he turned that franchise around and got us to the playoffs. I mean, we had a winning season, shall we say, which was the first time in a very long time, and that's all because of that link-up play with Jameis Winston and Mike Evans. They had a great relationship. Granted, it started going a little bit downhill, so to speak, but he still threw over 5,000 passing yards. Still threw over 5,000.
How do you overthrow to Mike Evans? The guy's about 12 foot tall.
I saw a video the other day where Jameis Winston threw a ball in a rubbish bin, blindfolded. And I think the comment underneath was, "It must have been the opposition dustbin."
Imagine Jameis Winston lobbing that Lombardi across a boat. Some Somali pirate would have scooped it up and took it off.
They have been saying he's working really hard this offseason, like really, really hard this offseason.
Well, it's his last chance, isn't it? It's his last chance, really. And if he can't succeed in the Sean Payton offense, he's not going to succeed anywhere. I'm sorry. He really is in the last chance saloon. But he's in a good offense to put up good numbers. It's just up to him how he does it. It's
all right. He'll end up in Vegas on like $45 million a year.
On a 10-year contract.
Yeah. As a backup wide receiver, probably.
Like Mario. You're just picking up all the quarterbacks from that draft, aren't you, to sit behind David Carr? Not David Carr. I keep saying that. It's not David Carr, is it? Derek Carr.
Yeah, but again, like you said, I assume, and I know you went for wide receiver and cornerback. None of you have gone for a quarterback. Are you assuming Jameis Winston is that number one for the New Orleans Saints?
Or it's Taysom Hill.
Taysom, yeah, I was thinking.
Not paying Taysom Hill $87 million a year voided, are they, to sit as backup? I said it all this year, didn't I?
I rate Taysom. I love Taysom Hill. He's older than some QBs, but there is something to be attributed to. Mormons have to go do a mission at some point, and he did his, and it delayed his college career. But he was so good at college. I want to see him as a start, like a proper starter, and he can line up anywhere.
He said, hasn't he? Is it this week that he's not there to be a backup? He's not there to be a jack of all trades or whatever he said. Yeah, he wants to be the quarterback. Yeah,
I think we'll probably see something like where we see
quarterback, just so we can top that division.
I think you can see something like where they have somebody who might come in and be the quarterback between the 20s. And then when they get into the red zone, you see Taysom Hill coming in as like a red zone specialist quarterback. Hey, we're seeing it on other positions, and Peyton's, it's a bit of an offensive wizard, like why not? Yeah. Like go get somebody like bring back Teddy Bridgewater and say to Teddy Bridgewater, you don't need to be outstanding in the red zone, because what we'll do is we'll use you up until the red zone, and then we'll package in Taysom Hill, and Taysom Hill will take over from there. And it wouldn't surprise us if that was the approach that they did, and Teddy Bridgewater ended up back there at some point. And they made some kind of deal to bring him back from Carolina, and he actually started there.
I like both your picks for the Saints. The Saints occasionally do some mad shit in the draft, though. I'm thinking of the other year when they traded up for Marcus Davenport. So I think there's a possibility that they might be active. But is there a QB at this stage? Is there a QB that could sneak in the first round? Maybe?
I still think, like I've said this all along, I want Kyle Trask at Buccaneers. It's not going to happen because Brady's still got another year or two. But Kyle Trask is still there.
You don't want Kyle Trask.
Kyle Trash.
I wouldn't take Kyle Trask there.
I'd rather take
Mills. It's too early, isn't it?
rather take Keelan Mond over Kyle Trask if I'm honest.
I'm going to throw Keelan Mond. I'd throw him out there. I think Peyton would like to work with him. I don't know that they would take him here, but I wouldn't rule it out. They do. That's not an official scientific statement, but the Saints do some mad shit in the draft occasionally.
I think if one quarterback sneaks in, it'll probably be Davis Mills if it's anyone. I'm not saying he will, but it probably will be Davis Mills.
Yeah.
I think the concern outside of those top 4 or 5 quarterbacks is like at some point some of the quarterbacks have to be busts. Like it's just the way it is. Like there's no draft where there's not a couple of busts, and I'd be worried about like taking someone like Trask or Mond in the first round. Definitely, like there's too many quarterbacks already. They're much lower down than the top 5. Like I'd want to wait if I was going to grab anyone. Definitely till like round 2, 3, even 3 or 4. Like Mond was originally like 4th, 5th round talent. I know the Senior Bowl's bumped him up a bit, but
Mond has been all over the draft boards I've seen. Though he's been rated everything from like late 1st to late 4th. No one seems to really know what to do with him. I think there's going to be a team that takes a bit of a shot at him and maybe gets a good
attributes. He's got some good attributes. He's just too inconsistent. You know, he can charge you upfield 80 yards, and then he's a bit like Jameis Winston, throwing an interception in red zone. That's the type of player he is.
So definitely draft him then.
So we'll move on to the final 4 picks. I want to say all of them, again, I believe are completely different bar one. So the Green Bay Packers are up. Again, we've gone for a centre in Creed Humphrey, which I think, is that your second centre in the first round?
It is,
yeah. It is.
And then wide receiver Rondale Moore.
I'll let Mark go on, Bones. I'm going to let Mark go.
I was only going to weigh in with playing them twice a year. I would wager that I like the wide receiver. I think Rodgers wants weapons. I understand getting offensive like O-line is important, but Rodgers was extending plays last year anyway. Like, get him someone else to throw to other than like Adams and Jones and like. Well, Jones still can catch as well, can't he? Like, even if he is their running back, but
yeah.
And Tonyan became a popular target by the end of the year as well. Though, but I still think they need someone to take the pressure off the wide receivers. They need another wide receiver weapon. But that's just my opinion.
Have Packers
one for you?
Go on, Mark. I was going to ask if Packers have replaced Lindley. Have they replaced him? Have they got anyone in? No,
they haven't got anyone. So, but here's a question for you. Name the last time the Packers, and get off your computers. Name the last time the Packers drafted a first-round wide receiver, and who was it?
Ooh. Have to go back.
Jordy Nelson. No idea where he went in.
Second round.
Was he second round?
Javon Walker?
They don't ever draft
Javon Walker.
Well, Javon Walker, 2002. Well done, John. Javon Walker was the last time they drafted a first-round wide receiver in 2002.
Yeah.
This is a team who don't have a history of drafting wide receivers high.
He wasn't even on the team.
I fully understand that. I just think Rodgers had arguably the season of his entire career last year, and that was and they fell short. Like, I don't know. I just think I understand. They might not do it. I just think for Rodgers' sake, they should get him someone. But like you say, this class is deep for wide receivers. They could get it in the second or third. It's not necessary that they need it now. But I don't know.
Rodgers doesn't need it. He's got Jeopardy now. He's fine, isn't he? He's the host of Jeopardy. Will he even come back? Has he confirmed that he's definitely coming back? I know
he's coming back.
Yeah,
he's from the MVP. You got to come back.
This year. I think he's confirmed he's back this year. It's more of a question going forward. I like the Creed Humphrey pick. Makes a lot of sense. Like you said, I like both picks, to be fair. Could they go corner? They got pretty badly exposed in the playoffs last year. Could they go corner? There's a few still knocking around. You've got Asante Samuel going the pick after. There's the guys from Georgia who are both good corners, in my view, that ain't quite at, maybe not first round level, but at this stage, you do see the occasional reach. I think they could go in a lot of directions. I don't think they will go receiver because they never do.
Yeah.
I think I think come draft night, I think they might even go linebacker. I think they might even go linebacker come draft night and go for someone like Jermaine Davis, like a middle linebacker, the kid from Kentucky who's rising up a lot of boards. I think that could be a very Green Bay Packers thing to do, go for a linebacker. Corner certainly in question. A center is, you talk about a team that runs exclusively the zone fronts, and Creed Humphrey's the best zone center out there. Many may argue he might be. Kenyon Green could probably play zone, actually. You know what I mean? But like it's a good shout. It's a good shout, like Creed Humphrey. I think if there is a center, I know I put Landon Dickerson earlier, and in my newest mock, which is coming out later on this week, I haven't got any centers in at all. But if I was putting one in, I think I'd be tempted to land Creed Humphrey in there.
Yeah, it's the same system as Shanahan, isn't it? So you want a zone blocking center. So I think that makes a lot of sense.
So after the Green Bay Packers, we have the Buffalo Bills. So we've got an edge in Gregory Rousseau and the cornerback in Asante Samuel Jr.
Gregory Rousseau.
I love Asante Samuel Jr., so I'm intrigued to hear Mark's reasoning for putting him here.
Bills have got Levi Wallace, who's an undrafted free agent who plays opposite Tre'Davious White. Levi Wallace was their Bama walk-on. I featured him a few years back in an article that I wrote about, like undrafted free agent steals, and I really liked him at Bama. It's hard to go to Bama as a walk-on against all those five-star athletes and get yourself in that team. But Levi Wallace did it. But I think he's going to be one of these cornerbacks who's just continually in a camp battle for his spot. And I like the idea of putting Asante Samuel there. And if he doesn't beat out Levi Wallace, if Levi Wallace does what Levi Wallace does and retains his spot, Asante Samuel can kick inside and he can play nickel. And I think that I think if you're in Buffalo's position, throw something at your secondary and make it stick. You know what I mean? And Asante Samuel gives you the best chance of doing that. Plays like his dad. It's like watching his dad play. It's just really good at playing the ball in the air. Yeah. You'd think he was undersized. I think he's about 5'10", 5'11", but he doesn't play that way. He doesn't play undersized. He's long reached and he's very feisty. And Florida State had very little last year, but him.
It's like you say about Devonta Smith, though, isn't it? He's always been that size. He's always played football at that size. So whilst, like Samuel might look a little bit undersized, for him, that's his normal size. He's played like that his whole college career.
Yeah. I think it could be a good pickup for them, Asante Samuel Jr. I think it would, Levi Wallace, as much as I like him, he doesn't let anybody down. I think you're always going to be looking to upgrade there. You know what I mean? If you've got an undrafted free agent there on the depth chart, if you're a general manager, you're always looking at that area and you're always good. I wonder if we can upgrade on Levi Wallace. Who's out there we can upgrade on, you know what I mean? And I think Asante Samuel's a good shot because he can play nickel as well. He's got that versatility.
Yeah, they're in a nice position, the Bills, really. They've got a pretty solid roster. They were pretty unlucky last year not to go their way. They've got a bit of a luxury here. They can do things like challenge a guy like Levi Wallace and go, can we actually improve this? Equally, the guy that you've got, Jordan, I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce his name with my Lancastrian accent, but top player, can totally see it. They're in a nice position. They really are. I could see them going defense, defensive head coach. It makes sense.
Yeah. And then for the first time in a very long time, you've gone for the same pick. The Kansas City Chiefs take offensive tackle Elijah Vera Tucker. I mean, you both thought
they're obvious where they're going, I think.
We all watched the Super Bowl, didn't we?
Yeah, based on the Super Bowl and the moves they've made in the offseason, I think they have to. I have more of an eye on the Chiefs than probably any other team outside of the Raiders. I think it's a no-brainer.
Do you?
I don't know the player, just know the position. And,
Do you think he'll?
Well, obviously we've got Orlando Brown now, so that's not going to happen.
Yeah. Do you think he lasts this long, Mark? Actually, on Thursday.
I think he's a really good fit for Minnesota. I think Minnesota will like him. He's got that guard tackle versatility. They've got Ezra Cleveland, didn't they, last year? The kid, they got Ezra Cleveland in the second round, I want to say, last year. And there might be that stick him out a tackle in the bring Vieira Tucker in a guard. I think Minnesota have got to do something on that offensive line. It's such a bad unit. When I was looking at the depth chart, and I was doing my last mock, and I put Vieira Tucker in Minnesota. I think they have to do something. And they'll crave his versatility. He's a really good player.
It scares me them upgrading their offensive line though, with what Dalvin Cook was able to do last year with a bad offensive line. Like that scares me. Like, especially as someone who has to watch them beat us twice a year. Yeah, that would worry me. But I can see why I 100% see why you're saying it. Like, you've got such a good running back, and if you could upgrade your offensive line, you could have even more out of him. Like,
good player, Vieira Tucker. It's a good player.
I think
he's the best pass protecting guard in this draft.
Yeah, it's like Mark said. We've both got him the same here. On the one that I've got, I'm giving away. Me and Mark are giving away tips here for the competition, but I've got him actually going to Minnesota as well on mine.
Me too.
I think they need to get that guard. They need to get that offensive line sorted.
Yeah. I think it's his ability to play. It's a bit like Rashawn Slater. Rashawn Slater could play any of them 5 positions on the line.
Yeah.
And Vieira Tucker's probably the same. And when you're that barren at an offensive line group, just take somebody and make it work. And Vieira Tucker, you can just stick him anywhere on that offensive line. He'll play really good at left tackle this year. He's probably his best position, probably left guard. But Minnesota just need bodies on that line. He won't last this long on draft night. He's a very good player, Vieira Tucker. I'd probably have him as he's definitely the best pass protection guard in the draft.
And then we're finally here, guys. The final pick.
No one cares. So can we move on?
One. I mean, we've had a draft. We've had obviously a trade, haven't we? So the Cleveland Browns still need to have their pick after trading with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And I know, Mark, you were saying that you really wanted to talk about this guy, Zavon Collins.
Already have.
Love the Browns. Yeah.
And I mentioned.
Yeah.
I mentioned it earlier as a fit. I love him there. I really love the idea of Zavon Collins in Cleveland. So, Joe, even though I didn't put him there in mind, Jordan did as well, and he stuck him in. I think it's a great pick.
I think the more I've watched him over that since like the NFL season finished, I've been watching more tape. But he's just crept up. Like you say, he's really, such a good rusher. But his pass coverage is good as well. Really top pass coverage.
I mean, you don't want him following a tight end or anyone down the seam. You're not going to line him up our nickel. But like in shallow zone, in the flats and things like that. Yeah, he's gonna hold his own. He's gonna hold his own. Big body though, isn't he? 6'6". Big wingspan. He's just pass the ball around this kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But obviously, without the trades, the Buccaneers will be taken at number 32, and you went for wide receiver Elijah Moore. I assume this because Antonio Brown probably not returning to the Buccaneers, add those weapons.
Hopefully not returning to the NFL.
It was one of those. It was a bit like me mock later on today, where I just went, Tampa don't really have any holes. Who's the best player available on my board? Oh, it's him. I'll stick him in there. It was Christian Barmore in the one today, and it was Elijah Moore then. Elijah Moore, great player. Absolutely brilliant player to watch. I wish he was 6 foot odd. He'd be a top 10 pick. You know what I mean? But he's not. He's 5'10". But he's a terrific player. And Tampa did such a tremendous job of bringing everybody back apart from Antonio Brown. You haven't got any real big needs. You're returning a championship roster. If it comes down to 32, just go, well, who's the best player? Who have I got? Who's the best player? I'll take him and stick him there. I think the only position they're not going to draft is going to be quarterback, because why waste Tom Brady's last couple of years grooming his replacement? All other positions are on the board, apart from fullback.
Yeah. So that is all 32. And again, when was these drafts completed? 2 weeks, 3 weeks ago?
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks, yeah.
And I know, like you said, it changes so many times. You're doing your new one now. There's so many different drafts, like 2.0, 3.0, 4.0, even a 6.0. So there's all different ones coming in. So finally, with 4 days to go to the drafts, do you see any shocks happening? I mean, what's your fantasy? Yeah, what's your fantasy? I say booking. What's your fantasy moment for the draft?
I think 3 is going to be such an interesting position. You know, John's team I'm so excited for this draft because there's so many quarterbacks. If you want to get excited for a draft, have quarterbacks in it. And there's 5 quarterbacks this year. And it just makes everyone, I don't know about you, but because there's so many quarterbacks in here, and Mac Jones is talented, we're taking the mick, but, Mac Jones is talented. You know, I think it's just because the other guys are such athletic, entertaining marvels that Mac Jones seals drab. But Mac Jones would have been better than Tua in last year's class, and he's a 5th quarterback. You know what I mean? But at least for us. And yeah, it's just exciting. There's 5 quarterbacks, and it's that's what makes this year's draft really exciting. You know?
Yeah, I'm thinking back to those years where like the top QB drafted was fucking EJ Manuel for the Bills. Yeah. Like that wasn't a good draft because there's no intrigue there. I have read so much on this draft, particularly what we're going to do at 3, and I'm forced to conclude that nobody has a clue. We're just guessing at this point.
I tell you, who doesn't have a clue the most? It's John Gruden and Mike Mayo.
Well, John Gruden will probably take Kellen Mond, but I agree. That's the first pivot point. We talked about that last week. I think there's a big pivot point at 3. I don't know what's going to happen. I'm trying to reconcile the idea of Mac Jones because I do, in my heart of hearts, I think it's 50-50. I think it's either Lance or it's Mac Jones. And I'm having to reconcile that with my personal feelings, which are please do not draft him. But he gets paid to make that decision. So if he's willing to make that choice and put his career on the line, I have to trust it. I have to trust it. But there's so many up and down this draft things that, I mean, how many times on these 2 pods have we said, well, we think this, but is it actually going to be like that? There's going to be a couple of those picks where we just go, where the hell did that come from? And I think that's the fun part of me. I can't wait.
That's a good question for you. Bones and Jordan and John. Like you said, there's always a player where you go, who? Like there's always a player where you go, who? And it's normally the Seahawks who take them. But of course, they're not in round 1 this year.
Not this year.
But if there's a shock player who maybe isn't really talked about, who might go into round 1, who we're thinking it might be, Jordan? Do you have one who you might think it might be?
I think we've both been mentioning him a bit recently and stuff. And I think the edge from Washington, Joe Tryon might sneak up, up and at the top end. Maybe it's not as much of a shock, I suppose, in the last week because he has really crept up on a lot of people's boards. But a week ago, I don't think anyone was talking about him a week or 2 ago. It was not mentioned at all.
A week or 2 ago, I'd made the same argument for Jamin Davis as well. Like, who was talking about Davis as a top of round 2, a late round 1 pick a week or 2 ago? Like, it's like you said, that it all changes so suddenly. Like,
if there's any team that's
John, do you have one?
Yeah, I like Tyson Campbell to come up, or maybe Stokes possibly. One of those 2, I think, is just because the league values corners so much now, especially in the late round. I think there's a chance they might just sneak in. There's always that pick at the end of the round where you go, it's a bit high, but I get why they've done it. And I think one of those 2 guys for me.
I think if I was going to have a swing, I want to see Milton Williams, but I'm not. But I have. I think Peyton Turner from Houston, 6'7", edge player, about 270 pounds. He's got really big size. I think NFL coaches will like that. You know what I mean? I think if I was looking for one of those you might go, whoa, where's he come from? Peyton Turner might be a good little bet to sneak in there as well. But that's the thing about draft night.
Slip into any of your last 4? I didn't see the last 4 picks. Did Vera Tucker appear anywhere?
Yeah.
Both at the same time.
That was before the Kansas City trade, of course.
Yeah.
And we both agreed he'll probably go to Minnesota on draft night in the first half of the draft.
I think what also keeps this draft super interesting, even outside of those first 3 picks, is whilst what Mark said about the quarterback class is true. I think the offensive weapons available, at least the top offensive weapons in this class, are super interesting. Like any of those wide receivers would have been the number 1 wide receiver last year. Any one of them, like
over Henry Ruggs. What are you smoking?
Over Ruggs, over Judy, over all of them. Like I would have any of those top 3 and Kyle Pitts above all of them from last year. Like I think it's going to be a super interesting class. The rumors you're hearing about things like the only person anyone wants to trade up for anymore is Kyle Pitts. Like the rumor about Burrow demanding Chase over Sewell, like saying I want my wide receiver back, I want that college tandem back. Like these rumors are fascinating, and I cannot wait to see what happens. Like.
Yeah,
I think
I read one there before in the car, and it was a snippet, and it was like basically Joe Judge is enamored with Devonta Smith, Gettleman's enamored with Micah Parsons, yet the organisation's enamored with JC Horn. And it's like fucking hell, what a mix! But when it says the organisation, you obviously use a lot might be able to help. Who is that? Like that can't be Mara, surely.
It's probably the scout, I guess, because they're going to advise Gettleman, but ultimately they can't tell him who to pick. There's rumours of that going on in the 49ers draft room as well. The scouts want Lance and Shanahan wants Jones. If that is the case, that's...
I read that today.
Yeah,
actually.
that's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
But then I would rather the coach takes the guy he wants because he'll coach him up properly and he'll actually play him. If he takes the guy that he doesn't really believe in, I think it'll show.
I think Mark made a good point in chat about if Mac Jones doesn't go at 3 or 4, you could see him slide down a lot further than actually everyone thought he would. Same with a few wide receivers. Depending what stacks up at the top half, you might see something that you're not expecting further down at 15, 16.
Smith has grown on me massively as well. We mentioned him before, and I felt bad about not mentioning it last week. I love Smith at this point. Like. I'm well up for us taking him. I wouldn't be upset if we took him. I wouldn't even necessarily be upset if we took him over Waddle. I'd be upset if we took him over Chase, but not necessarily over Waddle. I think.
Where's a lot of people got Devonta Smith?
I find it hard to peg him because he's such an outlier. Like you're talking about 166 pounds. He was meant to clock in on the unofficial, combine medical result. Now he's trying to,
he doesn't shy away from playing physical at that weight, though. That's what doesn't that originally the weight worried me, and then watching the way he plays, he will still get stuck into his cornerback. Like he doesn't worry about man press; it doesn't stop him. Like,
I mean, that's the thing. You look at him in press coverage, you couldn't press cover him.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? No, he was great against press coverage. I think just the way the NFL will look at that body type, they're normally scared of something that's unknown. Like that's the NFL in it. They go, we're a bit scared of this undersized linebacker. Now everyone's got undersized linebackers, but that's how it is. And I think if somebody was to slide and if someone was sitting in that green room, maybe, like having an uncomfortable sit like Brady Quinn or Aaron Rodgers, I wouldn't be surprised if it's Smith. Just because of his size and his frame. I'm like you, Bones. I think he's a terrific player. I think he's been small all his life, and he's been here. It's not like this is new to us. And he was playing in the SEC. You know what I mean? He's playing really high level of competition. You only have to look at how he played against players like JC Horn, like who are being now lauded. And Smith put Horn in a blender. Yeah. He minced him.
Horn's the best man coverage in this class, arguably, and Smith burned him every time. The thing about Smith is and the reason he's grown on me more is everyone says Goff needs receivers that can create separation.
Goff needs a new job,
and Smith for all his size and stuff, he always gets separation on his routes. He's always got a bit of space, and I think Goff will be able to throw to him. I kind of am. He's proper grown on me as the Lions wide receiver pick massively.
There's some picks where I'm just I don't get it. I don't get the slating that Justin Fields is getting.
Yeah.
This is a guy who got pounded in the college playoffs against Clemson. Came back and threw 6 touchdowns. You know, like, and you're like, that was like only in January. And now people are talking about him falling down boards and questioning his love for the game. And you're like, are you mad? Did you say that he come back with like broken ribs? Are you crazy? Like, he didn't even have to play last year. And he was petitioning the Big Ten for them to play football. You know what I mean? But people are like, oh, he doesn't love the game because he played baseball. You're like, are you mental? Have you actually watched that tape against Clemson?
Kyler Murray was drafted, wasn't he?
By Skolasky. And broke ribs and came back, missed one play, and came back and threw 6 touchdowns. And you're like,
Skolasky's a monster, isn't he?
He was the one we watched, wasn't he, Tom?
He wears the neck brace thing.
Yeah. And
he got so scary.
Got ejected against LSU, didn't he?
Yeah. He's got Raiders written all over him.
Yeah.
I think
this kid's ribs. You know what I mean? And he came out and threw 6 touchdowns that day against Clemson. You know, against Clemson. Brent Venables defense Clemson. We're not talking about somebody like, you know, we're not talking about TCU or something like that. Talking about, you know, like Clemson. And it's like, and as this process goes on, players get overthought. And I think sometimes you've just got to go, Devonta Smith, he might be skinny, but he's always been skinny. You know what I mean? Justin Fields, let's look at his body of work and let's look at his evidence. You know, there will be players who slide. Micah Parsons, you know, character control. I already think he might slide past into the 20s. You know what I mean? And look, it's the NFL draft. That's it. That's why I love it. You know, like if anyone's getting into the NFL, you know, like or is new to the draft, you know, like it's an exciting time. It really is. Off season and the draft is the highlight of that. I love it. These guys love it. I implore you to stay up late, get some snacks, get some drinks in and watch it like you watch the Super Bowl. It's going to be fun.
And also watch draft day. Watch draft day before you watch drafts. It might give you. It's also very good.
Yeah, I'm planning on doing
that. Just to, obviously, you talk about Devonta Smith going in like the first 15 picks. Where did you have him going again, Jordan? I can't remember.
Jordan had him go to Philadelphia at 12.
Philadelphia.
Yeah, Mark had him go to Philadelphia as well.
Yeah, they both had him going to Philly.
Philadelphia.
The latest mock-off stuck at the Lions.
Philadelphia Eagles, that is.
Eagles!
Fly, Eagles, fly, on our way to victory.
We've done so well.
What a point to end on, eh?
Killed Jamie off. He's disappeared.
I was literally just trying to find a way to get that in.
This has been a mammoth pod. Well done, anyone who stuck with us for this.
No,
I've loved it. It's just been like chatting with me mates.
We're going to be doing more of this.
And anybody who stayed watching this, well done. You know what I mean? Well done for sticking with us.
But we're going to be doing more of this, don't forget. You know, 3rd and short, out of bounds, or overtime, or bloody half time, or whatever the hell we're calling it. I don't even know where we're at this point. I think
we've got a whole draft to break down. I can't wait for Thursday.
It's the Super Bowl of the off season, isn't it? That's what I think about draft night.
Like, brilliant.
Are you staying up, Jordan, even though your Seahawks aren't picking?
Oh, I'm well up for. I booked Friday off.
Me too.
It's one of them. It's like I think Bone said it earlier. It's just something extraordinary about this year. It's really got me. I love the draft anyway, but it's just got me more fixated this year. And I don't know if it's just because I've been locked in my house for a year. I haven't been able to do anything.
Well, that's the effect of me being in your life, isn't it, Jordan? Like, you know,
Him being locked in his house is nothing to do with COVID.
I'm staying up. I'm not going to go to sleep until Milton Williams.
I'm staying up for about can't wait to see that kid's career. Can't wait to see it.
I'm just going to throw a comparison out there and also a documentary recommendation. This feels very 1983 Elway to Marino draft to me. If you haven't seen 30 for 30 on Elway to Marino, watch it. It's one of my favourite, documentaries full stop, but for like anybody that loves the draft, it's absolutely brilliant. And that has the feel. This, apart from Trevor Lawrence not saying he won't play for Jacksonville, it has a very similar feeling about it. Maybe Fields is going to be the Marino of this draft. Just keep dropping. Maybe the Jets won't take Zach Wilson. Maybe they'll take some guy out of California Davis. I don't know. But I can't wait. I think the two happiest teams, looking at all this madness that's going on around Justin Fields, around Devonta Smith, around people like that. Well, apart from Jacksonville, the happiest teams looking at the board right now. Probably Los Angeles Chargers and New England for me, because the Chargers are going to potentially get an offensive weapon. You've got Waddle going to them. You've got Darisaw, which would also be a cracking pick. But also New England potentially looking quarterback. Someone's going to be there. I really do think someone's going to be there. We discussed New England moving up. I don't think they're going to have to. The way things are looking right now, I think someone could easily fall to 15, sorry. I keep forgetting I've got this on Excel in the first row.
I think Mark left him at 15 and he's still got
Matt Jones.
I think he's still got and I know that Jordan traded
Mark called Mac Jones to the Patriots months and months and months ago.
It was at the start of the season just gone, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was whenever we had Mark on the pod, which was early on.
Yeah.
He'd be a great pick for the Patriots. He really would.
Yeah. So obviously, despite Lawrence and say maybe Zach Wilson, I want to get your opinions now. Do you have an opinion who is going to be Rookie of the Year?
Lawrence.
I said despite Lawrence and Wilson.
It's already been awarded to him.
Yeah, we're taking them two out.
Not looking at Lawrence and Wilson.
All right, we'll take them two out. Trevor Lawrence.
I don't think it will be Lawrence unless the Jags have an incredible year. So I think you're all right.
I think the Jags will step up more than.
Well, you say that because Burrow was the front runner for Rookie of the Year before he got injured, and Bengals didn't even make the playoffs.
I think the Jags are going to have a good year.
I do. I think the Jags will be good.
I think that division. I think the Jags are in a division where the Tennessee Titans have lost pieces. And I think that the Houston Texans are a bin fire. And I think Urban Meyer's going to come in. And I think the Jags are a nice little bet. Not maybe to make the playoffs, but I think they might have a 6 to 8 win season, which might be enough to finish second in that division. Because Tennessee are over the hill now. I think their window's starting to close. They've lost a lot of their secondary. And I think Trevor Lawrence has got to be the offensive Rookie of the Year candidate. If I'm not taking Trevor Lawrence, and I'm not taking a quarterback, I think I'm probably going to look at Jamar Chase.
Yeah, I would have said Chase.
Chase or Kyle Pitts, depending on maybe if he don't end up at Panthers. I think he's got a chance everywhere.
I don't know. Panthers, their quarterback situation now.
I'm just going to throw in.
If they keep Christian McCaffrey fit, then I assume Panthers can go far, can't they?
They've got Darnold.
Without McCaffrey, the Panthers are no one.
I rate Darnold.
Would be better in Carolina, especially with Joe Brady to coach him.
He's so young.
There you go, though. Carolina are doing savvy things. They haven't extended. They haven't took Sam Darnold's fifth-year option. I think that they're going to ultimately extend Darnold. But even they're like, look, we could take a quarterback.
Yeah,
they're trying to drive some trade value in that number 8 pick as well. You know what I mean?
I think JT Horn's a good shout for Defensive Rookie of the Year. I know Surtain's good, but I think JT Horn's a good shout.
Yeah, good shout. Good shout. In other sort of draft-related news, Kyle Shanahan has just been asked in his press conference if Jimmy Garoppolo will be on the roster at the end of night 1 of the draft. He says he can't guarantee that anyone will be on the roster as they could die, which is an interesting one.
What do we answer the question, Lewis? Come back to that one. They might all be dead.
So maybe we'll see you next week, but who knows? You might all die in an explosion.
There's one way of saying Jimmy G's off, and that's
saying he could be dead.
Pretty spectacular. If he's not on my roster, he's either dead or.
Yeah, sorry, it's not.
So you're saying there's a chance.
It's the most batshit insane answer I've ever seen to a press conference question.
That's proper
He's got Jose Mourinho's PR agent.
That's well funny.
I think Tom said we don't know who's going to be back next week because one of them might be dead. Depending on the draft on Thursday, I think there's a few people who might not be turning up. Might be
You'll be in San Fran burning stuff down.
Yeah, well, that's it.
Like saying that at work. It's like,
He's been done for murder. Jimmy G's died.
Could you imagine at work? Would you be able to work at the weekend? I don't know. I might be dead by the weekend. If I'm alive, then sure.
I can't come into work today. I'm phoning in dead.
I feel like because it's 9:20 as well, I should say it, Oliver. Oliver, get to bed. Because I know you're going to be watching this pod. And it's 9:20. So go to bed, Oliver, if you're not in bed. You know what I mean?
There he is.
There he is.
There he is.
Go to bed or you could die, apparently.
I think that's the perfect way to wrap it up, I guess, isn't it? So we're excited for the draft. It is only 4.
No, I'll do the official wrap up if you want, mate. Don't worry, I've got this. Just don't die.
Kyle Shanahan, brilliant.
So yeah, I mean, as always, you can follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram.
If you die, you don't have to follow us. It's all right. It's all right. Oh, if you do follow us before you die, we'll keep the follower. So
at least it won't go, will it? So follow us before you die at Third Short Pod.
Yeah. Quick, follow us now. Quick. You never know what's going to happen.
And obviously, buy our merch. Make sure you buy it and get it delivered before you die.
You can wear it for your funeral.
It comes in black.
And make sure, I mean...
That's what we need. A Third Short suit. Funeral suit. Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, and if you are planning on dying, just put all your money in your will to the recovery trust.
There we go.
Nicely done.
That's what's important.
And you can follow the Recovery Trust on Twitter at recovery_trust.
Oh my days.
The podcast, let's just check. Yep, we finished on 2. That's
You
fine.
forgot at least 4.
Finished on 2? You're fucking joking,
I think there was 7 extra ones when they announced what Kyle Shanahan had said. At least 6, because I know I said it. So
yeah.
Yes,
wow.
I'm glad you enjoyed my debut as roving news reporter for the Third Short.
Brilliant.
I just love the fact that as well, like during the chat as well, we also had this.
Hey.
So by that logic, we've taught that person that they could die. Am I reading that wrong?
Isn't that DJ from the group?
Is it?
I think so. Yeah.
No, I like his little tag. Love.
I think we should have a segment next week. You know, like on the Fast Show when it was Jesse's diet tips. I think it should be what's Kyle Shanahan been saying this week?
Yeah.
This week I have mostly been saying people will die.
That's got to be like if I can find a video clip of that, that's got to rival playoffs, hasn't it? And all the other ones that get wheeled out. Like, I can't guarantee he could be on the roster. He could die. That's just.
Did somebody mention death? Put a clip in the bomb.
Sorry, better wrap it up then before we die.
Sorry, Phil, but you've been had now. Kyle Shanahan's
only one thing we can say, really, isn't it? And he's enjoyed the draft. I'm sure we all will, and hopefully we'll see you next week.